He's been entertaining audiences for well over 50 years. Ladies and gentlemen, it brings me great pleasure to bring to you the one and only Mr. Richard Harris.
Hey,
How you doing?
Great, man.
Hey, I'm glad you had a chance to come down, man, because I know you're a very busy individual. And what I want to do with you, man, I want to get started, and I want to go all the way back to the beginning.
Ooh-wee.
Where were you born?
In the Hill District, 1943.
Yeah. Is that where you were raised at, in the Hill District?
Born and raised. My mother had me in the house, so when I came out,
okay,
I was a block away from Heron Avenue.
Yeah. And there you are.
I was there. No hospital would bring me on.
Yeah.
I was right there on 2830 Orban Street.
Oh, they're beautiful.
That's the Hill District.
They didn't have to bring you home from the hospital, so you was right there already.
I was right there.
No, what was that like for you growing up in the Hill District during that time?
Oh, Timmy, I tell you, that was the greatest, man. And see, my father had his own jazz band, and he had the Hill City Youth Municipality Band. He was the head of that, the director, taught everybody how to read music, the late, great Paul Chambers, Stanley Turntine, my brother, me, George Benson, the group, everybody. He taught them not just how to play, how to read music.
Right.
And that's where it made it so great growing up around there. Earl Bostic, all the greatest entertainers in the world. You know, the Crawford Grill, Wally Avenue days. We were on that. My dad, I was 11 years old on that playing drums. And I didn't have a sling, so the drum kept going behind my back. The guys were laughing, but man, all my sisters were majorettes.
Okay.
My sister Shakita, my sister Dassy, my sister Geraldine, my brother was tenor sax. So it was all musical family.
All musical family.
Yeah.
Well, what about like when you was a little boy, man? What did you do for fun, man, like when you was a little boy?
Oh, we did everything, you know, threw rocks, everything a little guy could do. You know, they called me Nature Boy because I was running around, man, with no shoes or socks on, man. I was running over bricks and nails and everything. They called me Nature Boy. And then when I heard, it was always music in our house. So I picked up, you know, I was about maybe 5 years old. I'm playing with these knives, man, drum, and that's when my dad started me off on drums first.
Oh, okay.
So I started playing drums.
Jimmy, you got good hands.
By 7 years old, he featured me on WQED when it was a church building over in Oakland, and featured me on the marches like Washington Post, our director. They said, man, this little guy is too much, man.
Yeah.
Then he put me in the band.
Is that right?
And I marched up and down those hills.
Now, what was that like for you, man, when you first time you got in the band and you're marching down the street, man? How did that make you feel?
Down, that's when that sling started going behind me. Them guys bought me a sling, man. And they used to laugh at me, but I was hanging in there. I was like 7, and this is Stanley Turntine, man, and these guys, Paul Chambers. Them guys was marching, you know.
Yeah, and you was right there with them.
I was right there with them.
Yeah. But how did that make you feel, though, man, marching down there and playing and seeing the people's reaction, man, at 7 years old?
I tell you, it was a great feeling, man. And that's when I got the bug, and I stopped playing the drums, and my dad put me on trumpet at 11 years old.
Okay.
So I was playing trumpet, messing around with the drums too a little bit at the same time. Then I started really going to work, you know, reading music and everything. And see, when I messed up at the house or didn't do my work or anything, he stopped me like, you're not going to a dance, get up in that room and get on that trumpet.
Okay.
Man, I was up there getting down and just enjoyed being by myself.
Yeah.
Didn't have to go to the dances, you know.
Now, did you play when you got in school? Did you play any instruments in
Oh,
school?
yeah, straight A's.
Yeah.
All the way, because of my dad. You know, from 5 years old
So did you
way
play
up.
drums in school?
I played drums in the band. I played a little bit of keyboard, and I played trumpet.
Now, how did the keyboard come into your life?
One day, the teacher went out, and I jumped over on the piano because my mother played, and taught me a lot of stuff.
Your mother was a pianist.
Yes, sir. And I started jamming down there, man, and the teacher came back. By the time he came back, I went over and another guy sat on there. He said, play that song again. That guy said, that wasn't me. That was Richard Harris over there. I said, no, it wasn't me. And everything just started from there,
Is that right?
And that's when I met William Herndon.
Yeah.
In the bathroom at Heron Hill.
Is that right?
Yeah. School time, lunchtime, in the bathroom, singing, get the echo like everybody else did,
Yeah, well, wait a minute, hold on. That's what I wanted to ask you. Now, we talked about you played the drums.
Yeah.
You got on the piano. Your mother was a pianist.
Yeah.
The trumpet came into your life. But you are also an excellent vocalist. Now, when did that come into the picture?
Well, that came in. My brother graduated from aeronautical school in New Jersey.
Okay.
So he kept me up here. He stayed in New York. So he was working for TWA, and he flew all the family up, and he kept me up here. This was 1955. And man, all I sang was Frankie Lyman. That's when Why Do Fools Fall in Love came out. And the second big record up here all around the country, really, was Honky Tonk, Bill Doggett. But Frankie Lyman, they gave me the bug to start, getting in the singing group.
And that's what made you want to sing, huh?
That's what came back. I dropped the trumpet, the drums and everything, and started singing.
Yeah, everything. Just dropped everything.
Dropped
Give me
everything.
that microphone.
Met Billy Herndon in the bathroom.
Now, look. I know you and Billy, we're talking decades here, right?
Yes.
So when we come back, I want you to tell us about the first time you and Billy met.
Yes.
And let's take us on that journey.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, stick and stay and don't go away. We'll be right back with the one and only Mr. Richard Harris.
Featuring 4 members of the Vocal Group Hall of Fame. Rain, sleet, snow.
Hey, hold up. Hey, I guess that's how we do it. This is how we do it. Get down,
For those of you just joining us, you are missing it. We're here with the multi-talented Mr. Richard Harris. Now, before we went to the break, you were getting ready to tell us about your experience at Heron Hill when you met the late, great Mr. William Herndon.
Junior high school.
Yeah,
Heron
tell
Hill.
us about that experience, would you?
Well, at lunchtime, most of the guys didn't eat lunch. They went in there and started singing. So we heard this tenor over there, me and Nathaniel Benson, that's George Benson's first cousin. We'd started messing around singing in the bathrooms, and we heard this tenor, and it was the great William Herndon. So we asked Billy to come over and join us, and then we heard the bass. That was Ralph Terry, got him over there, and the party was on.
Yeah.
And we started from there, singing. Then it started like after school. My dad got on me because instead of coming home, we were out under that street light till 9, 10. Then it started getting to 11 or 12 at night. And my father didn't like that,
Right.
you know, until he heard us. And after he heard us, he became our manager.
Is that right?
By that time, we had George Benson with us.
Okay. Now, how did you come in contact with George? Did he go? Did he go to your school, or
No.
how did that all come about?
George was going to Lecce, and then he was in Connolly Trade. And Nathaniel, that's his first cousin, said, "Man, I got a cousin that can sing, probably can join the group, and he can play guitar." We said, "Man, tell him to come on over." Man, we went down to rehearsal on Hearing Avenue, seen this little guy coming up over the hill with a guitar on his back and a string.
A string.
The string to hold the guitar on him, coming up Wiley Avenue, down to Hearing Avenue, and we started singing a song called Bermuda Shorts. Bermuda, Bermuda, Bermuda Shorts. And he, beep, 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 back in. He was that, I said, "Get out of here." He was in.
Yeah.
And then my dad became the manager, and then we started working schools. Then club owners started coming up to my dad.
Is that right? Now, the first time y'all performed in front of an audience with that group, do you remember where that was?
I remember it.
Take us there.
Shenley High School. Shenley High School had amateur shows and stuff like that. And we went up there and won first prize because of that little George Benson, too, on that guitar and could sing.
Yeah.
Yes. And people said, "Man, this guy's amazing." But the whole group was great. Billy, first tenor, lead, Nathaniel, second tenor, lead, baritone, lead. The group was just made for each other.
Right.
And after we won all the contests, all of them, we started going to the clubs. My dad got the power of attorney and chaperone, so we can go into the nightclubs in Weirton, West Virginia, Steubenville, with Sir Walter Raleigh.
Get out of here.
He was the first. Then came Bill Powell, Porky Chadwick. We started doing all the record hops. And in the summertime, we went to New Jersey, and we stayed in my brother's basement. He lived in New Jersey, Montclair, New Jersey, Raymond Harris. And he took us to all the clubs up there. And we played that, and when summer was over, school started back to Pittsburgh.
Is that right?
In the school.
Yeah,
Yes.
what an experience, man.
And then we went up one year, and he took us to a club where King Curtis was playing.
King Curtis and the Kingpins.
King Curtis and the Kingpins. And we did a lot of coaster stuff, yakety yak. Still doing it now with the Marcells.
Right.
But King Curtis called us up on stage, and said, "What you guys want to do?" We said, "Yakety yak." He said, "What key?" We said, "The same key you did it with the coasters."
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, tore the place up. He had the contracts right there waiting for us.
Is that right?
We didn't sign because about 2 weeks later, they took us up to another club where Dinah Washington, the Queen of the Blues, was performing. And we went in there. She let us on her show because some people said, "These guys are great." So we went in there, tore that show up. She had the contracts waiting for us. So she was a bigger name, you know, and everything in recording and everything. So we signed with Dinah Washington.
Okay.
George left and went with Jack McDuff. He wanted to play jazz.
Okay.
But the rest of us went with Dinah Washington. We recorded with Dinah Washington, won albums with Dinah. Dinah's Greatest Hits, Dinah 63 was the last one. And that's when I ran into Cornelius Gunther of the Coasters, Chuck Barksdale, and Johnny Carter of the Dells.
Okay.
Yeah, they joined Dinah's troupe
Right.
with us.
Well, look here. Now, you mentioned the late Dinah Washington.
Yes.
Now, when we come back, would you tell us what that experience was actually like for you playing with someone of that magnitude, man, at that age? You know what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, stick and stay. Don't go away. We'll be right back with the incomparable Mr. Richard Harris.
Kiss me each morning for a million years. Hold me each evening at your side. Tell me you love me for a million years. If it don't work out, and if it don't work out, then you can tell me goodbye.
Give me a little soul clap.
Music is a word within itself, with a message we all understand. With an equal opportunity for to sing and clap their hands, yeah. And just because our record's in the groove, don't mean it's in the groove. You can tell by the way from there to here when the people start to move. You can feel it all over, baby. You can feel it all over the beat. Oh, you can feel it all over, baby. You can feel it all over the people.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with the multi-talented Mr. Richard Harris. And before we went to the break, you were about to tell us about your experience with the late, great Dinah Washington. But the group that you had when you had signed that contract with Dinah Washington was a group called the Altiers, is that correct?
Yeah, it's really the Altiers.
The Altiers.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how did that name come about for the group?
Well, when we got George in the group, you know, when we were 13 years old, you know, on the corner singing and everything, a guy had a record company on Wiley Avenue. And he called us down there and said, man, you guys are pretty good. So we sang, everything went pretty good. We didn't have no name though. So we were sitting on this porch looking up at the stars and talking and everything. And he said, the Altier, that's a star in the heavens, Altier.
Okay.
Stars. And that's the name he gave us, and it stuck with us for a while.
Yeah.
That's the name we had. But everybody else said the Altiers.
Yeah, I've heard it pronounced that way,
Yeah.
but that's not correct.
It's the Altiers.
The Altiers.
But the Altiers stuck.
Yeah.
You know?
Now let's give us that rundown again. The Altiers was you, George Benson.
Me, Billy Herndon, Nathaniel Benson, Ralph Terry, and George Benson.
And George Benson. Yeah, yeah.
The George Benson.
The George Benson. Yeah, don't get it twisted. Yeah. Now you signed a contract with Dinah Washington.
Dinah Washington,
Now,
as the Altiers.
Yeah. Now what was that? And then that name changed.
The name changed.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the Altiers.
The Altiers. Now whose decision was that, and why?
It was Dinah's decision.
Okay.
And things changed. It wasn't my dad no more now. This was Dinah. you know.
Right.
Roulette Records, the record company and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at the Apollo Theater one day. See, we worked, just me, Billy, and Nathaniel, the Altiers. George was with Jack McDuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm down at the Apollo Theater watching the show. The Dells came on stage and sang. I said, man, I always wanted to see these guys, you know, live and in person, you know, growing up. So I left the Apollo and I went up to rehearsal at Dinah's house, and I come in, and who's sitting in there but two of the Dells, Johnny Carter and Chuck Barstow, the bass. And Dinah said, I'm starting a new group. Because these guys had just broke up. They had a little argument or some, you know, some kind of personal thing that went on with the group. So the rest of the guys, Marvin Jr., Vern Allison, and Mickey, went back to Chicago, and Chuck and Johnny stayed in New York at Dinah's apartment. And so the three of us, me, Nathaniel, and Billy, joined in. Dinah had us join in with Chuck and Johnny. And then Cornelius left, Gunther left the Coasters, and she hired him. So it was us, and then she got Lola Falana.
Wow.
Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets.
That's what they said.
But she did more dancing. So, and that's when she changed the name to Dinah's Gentleman.
Dinah's Gentleman.
Dinah's Gentleman. Yes. She called it D's Gents. D-E-E apostrophe S. They called her D for short.
Right.
Dinah D. D-E-E apostrophe S. D's Gents.
These Gents.
And that's how we work. Now, check this out how the name changed. We worked, we recorded. In 10 days, we were in Las Vegas with her for a month with the Count Basie Band, all the greatest entertainers. I was down there with Joe Lewis, Sammy Davis Jr., the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra. And then we did a recording behind Elvis Presley with Otis Blackwell, Winfield Scott. We did Return to Sender, Address Unknown.
Is that right?
We were in the studio with the producers Otis Blackwell and Winfield Scott. These guys wrote Tweedledee Dee for Laverne Baker, Fever for Little Willie John, You Give Me Fever.
Yeah.
Great Balls of Fire for Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, these guys were some writing guys. Two black guys from Brooklyn, New York. So we were in the studio. They said, hey, guys, come on over here, because we were recording. They said, just do some background. And Otis said, I got a letter from the post, man. I put it on my side. Boom, 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 boom. We said, return to sender. Man, it was on. But we just got the union dues, you know, about $120 or whatever it was. And that record came out, man, and straight to the top. Yeah. So we did all of that, man, back then. And we were only 19.
Is that
19 years old.
And all that has happened up, wow, that was a lot of stuff, man. Up
with Count Basie, one of my dance teachers, well, Lola Falana, me and her had a dance act on the show. Sammy Davis was one of my dance teachers. And then I became involved in choreography.
Yeah.
I worked with the Step Brothers. And when Dinah married Night Train Lane at the Detroit Lions, that put us in Detroit a lot. And I already knew Smokey Robinson from doing the record hops here in Pittsburgh and stuff with Porky Chadwick, Bill Powell, and Sir Walter Raleigh, John Christian.
Yes.
And so I knew Smokey, and Chuck Jackson came up from Pittsburgh doing the nightclubs and stuff, so I had a good time with him and Smokey, because Smokey was producing him then. And I ran into a group called the Reflections. And I went over, and they said, man, could you figure out a couple of steps for us? And the record was just like Romeo and Juliet.
Is that right?
And then that made a hit. So I'm standing there watching all these hit records going, you know. Oh, it was great, man. I did a few things for the Temptations. Charlie Atkins was teaching me. I had like 3 or 4 teachers in Detroit. Prince of the Step Brothers, you know, and Ziggy Johnson. Man, I was 19, still 19.
And you were still with Dinah at this time?
I was still with Dinah Washington.
Okay, so
with these Dinah's Gentlemen.
At some point, your association with Dinah ended.
Yeah, well, she passed away.
Oh, is that what that was?
She passed away in Detroit.
Okay.
And when she passed away in Detroit, the Dells went back with Chuck and Johnny. The Dells went back to Chicago. Lola went back to Atlantic City and started working. She's from Philly. And that's when Sammy Davis seen her again. She was in Larry Steele Dance Review. And he said, I want that girl right there. And took her to Broadway, Golden Boy, yeah, Lola. And I stayed in Detroit for a year, came back to Pittsburgh, 64,
Okay.
So I'm sitting over at the barber shop on the north side and met Walt Maddox, the barber. Well, I knew him, you know.
Right,
but we started talking again, and Billy said, man, why don't you come on and join the group here in Pittsburgh? I said, what group? He said, the Marcells. I said, what?
Yeah. Now, now you done opened up a whole new thing now. So look here, when we come back,
man, I'm telling you.
Please, would you take us back there and help us to appreciate how this whole thing with your association with the Marcells, man,
that's how
transpired.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, stick and stay. Don't you dare touch that dial. We'll be right back with Mr. Richard Harris. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with the incomparable Mr. Richard Harris. And before we went to the break, you were telling us about how when you, Dinah Washington had passed, and so at some point you moved back to Pittsburgh in about a year after that, and you ran into the late, great Mr. Billy Herndon.
Yes.
And Walt Maddox Barbershop.
Walt Maddox Barbershop.
Walt Maddox Barbershop.
North Franklin Street.
Yeah, North Franklin Street in Manchester, in Pittsburgh.
Oh, you know it.
Yeah,
man.
Matter of fact, right around the corner from here.
Yeah, no, that's gone now, I think.
Yeah, well, North Franklin's still there.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, would you tell us what that whole experience was like and what transpired that day?
Okay. Well, I was sitting up there getting my shoes shined. You know, pair of alligators, you know, I was clean coming back from Detroit, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was on a roll. And so Billy said, hey, man, he said, why don't you come on and join the Marcells with me? You know, because Billy had came back from Detroit, you know, earlier. And after Dinah Washington passed away. And so everybody went back, you know, the Allegros went back to Philly, and Jimmy Sigler was in Dinah's backup band on organ. And he started MFSB, what's that, mother, father, sister, brother, Philly. So that's him on all of those great songs, the OJs and Teddy Pendergrass and all of that. So everybody went. So I'm there. You know, I was just staying in Detroit. I did the Reflections in Detroit. The song was called Just Like Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, and I did the routine for that. In fact, you can see it on Time Life when they show the stuff late at night. There's my moves that the group did. Yeah. And so, but when I came back on a break to Pittsburgh, I was getting my shoes shined, and that's when the late Billy Herndon asked me to join the Marcells. And Walt was doing his hair and cutting hair and everything, Walt Maddox. And so after he closed up shop, we went in the back and started rehearsing. But I didn't know it was a gig that night. They had a job. Yeah. So we rehearsed all the tunes. We all knew each other pretty good as far as the tunes that they did and we did. So we started off on Blue Moon, Mr. Fred Johnson, Mr. Bassman.
That's right.
And the next thing I know, man, we at the highway. We jumped in this big black Cadillac Walt, I think it was a 1959 or something. And up the highway we went, man. And we worked with the Mad Lads and the group, George Clinton now, but it was
Parliament?
Parliament, I Want to Testify.
Yeah.
The hit back then. That was 65. Yeah. And I've been with the Marcells since.
Ever since 1965.
Yeah, man, it was a great experience, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and also, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with it, Richard is also the choreographer for the Marcells. So when you see all those moves and grooves, that's all coming from Mr. Harris here.
Come on. Yeah, still out there trying, Timmy.
Now there's another group that you sang with and recorded with as well. After that, It was called These Gents.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how did that all come about?
Tell you how that started. While we were with Walt, the Marcells, me and Billy said, let's get this little guy on the hill, from the Hill District, called Leroy. Everybody knows him like Elroy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was with a group called The Enchantment.
Okay.
Lonely Hearts was the record. And they had broke up. So we said we can make some extra money working the clubs on the hill, the Workman's Club and all that. So we started rehearsing, and we were doing the Marcells too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, the Marcells, you can go do those jobs and get back to the Hill District before 2 o'clock.
Right.
And then we worked the nightclubs in the hill as These Gents. And we didn't have a name. And we sat and we thought. So Billy came up with an idea. He said, we was Dinah's Gentlemen, These Gents. So let's change that D-E-E apostrophe S to T-H-E-S-E. These Gents. These Gents, These Gents.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who we became. Me and Leroy Grammer and Billy Herndon.
Yeah.
And the group did good. And then Walt started producing us. We was trying to get all the money we could.
Yeah.
Walt Maddox of the Marcells started producing These Gents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And y'all made a record. Yesterday, Standing By.
Did pretty good.
Yeah.
It went halfway across
What
the
was
country.
that experience like for you recording that record? What was that?
Oh,
What
man,
was
that was
like?
great. Walt Maddox, again, took us in the studio, produced it. Record came out great. And we were in, let me see, we stayed down at Warner Robins, Georgia on the Air Force Base. Warner Robins, Georgia, Air Force Base. And we heard the record down in Memphis, Tennessee, on a radio station down here in Georgia.
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name, but it came out of Memphis.
How did that make you feel?
Man, them girls jumped up. We was down there. They said, "That's you guys, man." We said, "What?" We couldn't believe it. Yeah, the record did good. New York. We went to Buffalo, New York, and toured. Rochester, Buffalo, all up through there. And the record did pretty good.
Yeah.
And we added another guy to the group, Wayne Walker from the El Dupre's of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah. And when the group disbanded, he joined us. Yeah. And we were These Gents, but we were still doing the Marcells.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, at some point, These Gents disbanded.
Oh, yeah.
When did that and why did that happen?
Well, we couldn't do These Gents but for so long. You know what I mean? Because it started interfering with our jobs as the Marcells. And the Marcells was paying a little bit more money.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So we went on and, just stuck with Walt. Yeah, me, Billy, Herndon, Fred Johnson, and Walt, and Leroy and Wayne went back and got their old group together.
Yeah.
But then the Marcells started getting better jobs in New York, Broadway. It just started getting better. Thanks to Mr. Walt Maddox, too, for managing the group and taking over everything.
Right. Now, I know Billy Herndon, he told me about the time that you guys were performing at the Baby Grand up in New York City.
Oh, man.
And Nipsey Russell was the MC.
He was there for years.
And he said that you guys, when you came out, you had this dance routine you did before you started singing.
Before we started singing, yeah.
So he said you came out, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it, These Gents. And y'all came out, and he said y'all was doing your routine.
Right.
And just before you was getting ready to start singing, Nipsey Russell came out and said, all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for him.
Yeah,
and he
goodbye.
rinsed you off the stage.
Yeah. And we told him, we said, no, we ain't started yet. He said, what? Yeah. Oh, that was so funny, man.
So
we felt bad. Oh, he said, see ya. New York, man, them people was something else up there. That was really funny.
Yeah. I know you've probably experienced a whole lot of pretty comical experiences down through your decades of performing.
Especially in Vegas with the Step Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, they called me out to dance with them. Hey, no music, and you go out and do your thing. So I went out and did my stuff. They said, boy, you're pretty good. And the one guy said, okay, when you get finished, just jump up in here and I'm going to catch you. Bop, up in here, he caught me and went on stage. Bam. They were dynamite. And I really got the bug then. Then I started teaching other groups around the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah.
You know, different choreographies and stuff, you know, for their songs, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, it was something down through the years. But I'm still hanging in there with the Marcells.
Yeah.
Well, 50, just about almost 49 years now.
49 years now.
49 years.
And I thought I was doing something because this
you're
year,
doing it.
this year will be my 25th year, but I ain't got nothing on you.
Go ahead, Tim. No, you cool, man.
Nothing on you, man.
It was just in there, you know, since I was a little baby, man.
Yeah.
The music was right there in the house, you know.
Now, there was another guy that we had talked about earlier who had taken little George Benson's place on guitar.
Oh, yes. Mr. McGee.
Larry McGee.
Larry
Butch McGee.
McGee, unbelievable.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. Yeah. When George left and started, he wanted to get more into the jazz. My dad, some way, or Billy, I think it was Billy Herndon, knew a little guy that could play, but he was 11 years old. You know, we like 18 maybe or something like that there. But man, we went over to his house and he came down, his mother brought him down there with the little guitar. This guy had George Benson down pat.
Yeah.
11 years old. My dad hired him right on the spot.
Right on the spot.
Larry McGee, great guy. I think he's in L.A. right now.
Right, he is.
Doing a lot of, Norma Connors, he sent me a CD. He's on a lot of Norma Connors CDs and stuff. Yeah, Larry McGee, great individually.
Yeah.
Play that guitar, man, like nobody's business.
Yeah, he did. He did. And he's still doing it today, man.
He wrote some songs for George Benson.
Is that right?
He sure did. I think it's going to be on George's, one of his new CD releases. Yeah.
Well, I know he sent me a clip of him and George Benson on the roof of a hotel with their guitars playing The Shadow of Your Smile.
Man,
you know?
great, Timmy. Great stuff, man.
Yeah, man. It don't get much better than that.
Got to get in contact with him when I go out to L.A. or give him a ring, you know, before we get out there. Yes, Larry's a great entertainer, man.
Yeah.
Songwriter, too.
Now, you and George Benson, you guys have always stayed in contact with one another ever since you were teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, you still go out and see him and you talk to him on the phone regularly. And so how is George doing?
Doing great.
Yeah.
He got homes all over the country, New York, Hawaii. He got 2 now, brand new homes down in Phoenix, Arizona. And I stayed with him. I came from Portland, Oregon, and I called him up. I had a layover in Phoenix, Arizona. And I called him up. I said, George, here. I said, I'm here in Phoenix. He said, I'm in L.A. I said, oh. He said, but don't move. He said, I'm at the airport. I'm with Quincy Jones, just finishing up my new CD, and I'll be there in about 2 hours. He said, what you going to do? I said, I'm going to hang at the sports bar. You know? And the party was on.
Yeah.
Went out every night, brand new car, you know. Oh, George is great, man. Great talent, man.
Yeah, I know that's your buddy. Man.
And we've been tight, you know, ever since we first got together as the Altiers.
Right.
I was going to say Altiers, but the Altiers.
The Altiers, yeah.
But everybody say Altiers, you know, it's Altairs. Yeah.
Now, I know in your years or decades of being in the music business, man, you've met numerous entertainers. Now, when we come back, would you tell us about some of who those are and what those experiences was like for you?
Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with Mr. Richard Harris.
Uh-oh.
Kiss me each morning for a new good year. Hold me each evening at your side. Tell me you love me for me. If it don't work out, if it don't work out, then you can tell me goodbye.
Give me a little soul clap.
Music is a word within itself, with the message we all understand. With an equal opportunity for all to sing and clap their hands, yeah. And just because our record's in the groove, don't mean it's in the groove. You can tell by the way from letter A when a big bus start to move. You can feel it all over, baby. You can feel it all over the people. You can feel it all over, baby. You can feel it all over the people.
Ladies and gentlemen, in case you've been wondering, my name is Timmy Willis, and I'm here with the one and only Mr. Richard Harris. And he was taking us on this journey that I've been enjoying so much. And I know that when you were in the music business for all these decades, you've had the opportunity to meet a lot of entertainers, many who are very famous.
Oh, yeah.
Could you share some of who those were, and what were some of those experiences like for you?
Well, at first, when we the All Tears, that was King Curtis. Then when we got with Dinah Washington, that's when it really started meeting everybody. The day we signed with Dinah, we recorded. And within 10 days after the recordings, we were in Las Vegas. Ella Fitzgerald.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Great. Oh, the voice was just too much, man. And Nancy Wilson. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin.
What were they like? You know,
man,
Frank
these
Sinatra,
guys
Dean Martin.
They just was party, man. I was hanging around them. They used to let me eat with them at lunch and everything like that there. And while I'm eating lunch, here comes Joe Louis, the boxer, Sonny Liston, everybody just hanging together. And I'm telling you, that was the greatest. And then we went horseback riding in the mornings. I mean, everybody, Dinah Washington, little Sammy, he would make. Then when I started seeing the movies, him playing the cowboys, now I know why he was so good.
Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, man, he was underneath the horse. Oh, come on. Oh, he was doing it, man.
Okay.
Now I know why.
Yeah.
That cat was great with twirling guns and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I had a great time with everybody down there in Vegas. The OJs, worked with them in Pittsburgh, and then when they made their big hits, you know, oh, man, great. The Temptations, Stevie Wonder.
Wow.
I met Stevie when he was 9.
Yeah. What was Stevie like, man? What was that experience like for you?
I went down to Motown. I used to walk down when I stayed in Detroit with Dinah, because she married Night Train Lane, you know, the Detroit Lions. And I walked down there, man, and so I'm with Sammy Turner, Lavender Blue fame, you know, made the song Lavender Blue. So we're up here in Motown. I'm all around. I'm standing there with Berry Gordy, Marvin Gaye, Smokey, and they had just came back from the Apollo Theater, and they were putting some horns overdubbing over Marvin stuff, because the kids were hollering so much because Stevie was on that live taping. Everybody say yeah, and the little kids were so loud they had to do the music over in the studio. And Stevie Wonder, little Stevie wanted to come down there. He was beating on. He was 12. He was beating on the drums. He was the harmonic. Everything. Berry Gordy said, "Get him out of there." Little kid, you know. They were tutoring there at Hitsville in Motown. The Four Tops. Oh man, great, because they used to back up Billy Eckstine from Pittsburgh.
See, I didn't know that.
Mr. B.
The Four Tops.
Yeah, and I worked with Billy Eckstine, Count Basie's band. The first time I heard all them trumpets behind me, man. Joe Williams, and a month later, Joe Williams left. And by the time we did this at Disneyland in California, time we did the Chicago State Theater, he had left. Joe Williams had left Count Basie, and I turned around, O.C. Smith took his place.
Little Green Apples.
God didn't make good Little Green Apples, man. What a great guy. We had a great time with O.C. Smith, man.
Yeah.
And then the years started passing, man. The Jackson 5, I've been with just about everybody. You name it.
I know we were doing a show, and we did a show up in Detroit at the Fox Theater.
The great place.
And
the Fox Theater, man.
Little Anthony comes out, and he walks past everybody and says, "Richard."
That's my friend, Little Anthony.
Yeah.
Man, it was the same height.
Yeah.
You know, it's yeah, Little Anthony. I met Little Anthony and them when they first came out with Tears on My Pillow. They were on the Dick Clark caravan, whatever, you know, that goes all over the country on the bus. You know, all the groups rode the bus back then, the Shirelles, Chantel, Little Anthony, the Drifters. And the band that mostly played behind them, especially at the Celia Moss, was Lloyd Price's band.
Okay.
And all these guys were jazz guys. So where they said they're going to go, that's where they go. The other young groups, Low Anthony, you know, had to go where they go. And that's when I met Low Anthony. They brought that bus up on Wally Avenue.
Get out of here.
To a place called Mutt's Hut, about 3 blocks from the Crawford Grill.
Right.
And Low Anthony came in and ordered their dinner and everything. And the older guys, you know, the jazz guys were playing jazz with Willie Love's organ trio from Pittsburgh, Chuck Jackson and all of that there. And that's when I met Little Anthony, 58. And we're still friends.
Still friends to this
Still
day.
Little Anthony, Clarence, Collins, the whole group.
Yeah.
Ernest Wright, yeah, we're still tight. Good friends.
Yeah.
All the way from the beginning.
Now, when you look back on all this, I mean, is there any most memorable moment that sticks out to you?
The most memorable is when I was in Detroit, and one of the football players, Roger Brown, I think it was, from the Detroit line, he said, "Richard, come on," because the house was full. I stayed at Dinah Washington's house. So when Night Train was out and where Dinah was visiting her mother in Chicago, I ran the house. So I had Eddie Kendricks there. I had people from Johnson's Jet Magazine, Nancy Wilson, you name it. They all came to the house, and I'm up there. I had the organ on this side of the room, the piano, all the champagne, because Night Train worked for Mohawk Liquor Company in Detroit.
Okay.
So everything was there.
Yeah.
And I had the house full every day. I mean, beautiful people, man.
Yeah.
The Temps, and I used to walk down to Motown.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't that far, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a
You had
great
a
time.
Great time, huh?
Little Esther Phillips. Everybody was great.
Esther Phillips, what a difference a day make, huh?
Yeah, Little Esther Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. She did a couple of things by Dinah, too.
Okay.
Yeah, she was really great.
Well, do you have any regrets when
No
you look
regrets.
back on it?
None.
None, huh?
Man, just
That's good.
great. Ever since I, boop, like I told you, right at the house, out
Right.
on Heron Avenue.
Right there.
And just been going ever since, Timmy.
Well, is there anything that you have not done that you still would like to do?
I'm trying to think here now. Oh, man, been just about everywhere. All the clubs all over the country. I done did half of them like 15 times. The Fox Theater about 8 times.
Right.
You know, and they got one in Atlanta. It's 4 of them all over the country, the big ones. Fox, like one in Detroit. I think it's one down in St. Louis and a couple other places. But like groups like the Contours, you know, they're still going. Little Anthony and the Imperials, the Miracles, everybody's still out there. The Drip. A friend of yours told me to tell you hi, Charlie Thomas of the Drifters.
Charlie Thomas, man, that's my heart, man.
He loved you folks. This guy can play them drums, Mr. Timmy Willis. So when you come see the Marcells, he'll be behind us.
I'm gonna do the best I can.
Timmy, great guy. Love you, man.
Love you too, man.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I really appreciate you coming down and spending this time with
man,
us, man,
no
and
problem,
taking us
man.
on this fantastic journey.
Thank you, sir.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Long as I'm doing this, man, you can always come back.
Yeah, I'll come back over.
Now, you got a grandson.
Yes.
who works for QED.
Kenneth.
Yeah. And
Kenneth
so,
Giovanni.
Right.
We call him Gio.
right. So we're going to try to get him. We're going to try to get him in here as well.
Oh, I hope you can.
Yeah.
Gio, love you, man.
All right.
We tried to get him here at this taping, but he's at work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you get a chance, the Marcells are still out there. They're alive and kicking. If you get a chance, you hear about a performance somewhere, I guarantee you'll be in for a treat. So you got to show up and enjoy yourself. Until next time, remember, make somebody happy and make somebody strong.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Richard Smitty Harris. At one time, he sang with Georgie Benson. He joined the Marcells in about 1965, and we've been singing together ever since. Richard Harris.
To Ted's left, this is our Gene, our dancing machine. You know it, you can see it, ladies and gentlemen, the man with all the moves and the grooves. Put your hands together for longtime Marcel man, Mr. Richard Harris.
This song, I could not do a show without including this song. I certainly wouldn't do a show here without including it. It's very special to me. I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you. In worn out shoes, silver hair, ragged shirt, baggy pants. He would do the old soft shoe. He could jump so high, jump so high. And then he'd lightly touch down. I met him in a cell in New Orleans. I was down and out. He looked to me to be the very eyes of age. As he spoke right out, talked of life, talked of life, laughed, slapped his leg a step. He said his name was Bojangles, then he danced a lick. Right across the cell, grab his pants, take a better stance, jump up high. That's when he'd click his heels. Then he'd let go that laugh. Lord, 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 he'd let go a laugh. Shake back his clothes all around. That was Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. The man could dance. Told me other times he worked with minstrel shows, traveling throughout the South. Spoke with tears of 15 years how his dog and he they would travel about. But his dog up and died. The dog just got old and died. After 20 years he still grieved. He said, I dance now at every chance in honky-tonks.
For my drinks and tips, but most of the time I spend behind these county bars. You see, son, I drinks a bit.
Then he shook his head. Oh, God, when he shook his head, I could swear I heard someone say, please. That's Mr. Bojangles. Call him Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles, come back and dance, 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 dance. Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles, dance. Oh, won't you come back and dance? Please, Bojangles, we need to see you dance again. Mr. Bojangles.
So you say you believe, and there's nothing I can do to make you change your mind. But just remember one thing for me, darling, that tomorrow is just an advancement of time.
Girl, if you leave my side, oh, how it hurts my pride. You're standing in the door with your bags in your hand, talking about a love for another man. Oh.